Hi everyone, notes 4.2 are on applications of Pythagorean theorem. So we're pretty much going to be looking at word problems with Pythagorean theorem. So in our first example, it tells us that the legs of an isosceles right triangle are 6 units long. Find the length of the hypotenuse to the nearest hundredth. So because we have a right triangle right here and it's isosceles, it means that these two sides are equal to each other. So if they're both 6 right here, we can label these as 6. We want to find the hypotenuse, which is x. So just a reminder, the hypotenuse is always the side that's across from the right angle. So this is going to be c. So when we use Pythagorean theorem, it's going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The a can be either 6 and the b can be the other 6. Here, when I plug this information in here, I'm going to plug in 6 for a, and then I'm going to square that, plus I'm going to plug in 6 for b and square that, and that's going to equal, and we don't know what this x is here, so we're going to say is going to equal x squared. All right, so now I need to figure out what 6 squared is. So 6 squared here is 36. So I get 36 plus another 36, and that's going to equal x squared. Well, 36 plus 36 is equal to 72. So I get 72 equals x squared. And in order to solve for x, to get that x alone, I have to get rid of that squared, and the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So here, this ends up giving me, let's just copy this down one more time, and then we're going to plug this into the calculator. So I'm going to find the square root of 72, which is 8 point all of these numbers right here. So we get approximately 8.48528. It says to round to the nearest hundredth. So here we have an 8. And the number that comes after this 8 is a 5. So that means to bump this 8 up to a 9. So our answer is 8.49 units long. Okay? In this next example, it tells us that Jenna is changing a light bulb. So we'll say the light bulb is up here. She rests a 4-meter ladder against a vertical wall so that its base is 1.4 meters from the wall. So this is telling us that our ladder is 4 meters long and that the base of our ladder, which is the bottom of our ladder, is 1.4 meters from the wall. And this will make a right angle. And we want to know how high up the wall does the ladder reach. So I want to know how high it is from here to here. So we're going to call this length right here x. And to solve for x, the first thing I want to do is identify what the c value is. So here I know the c is 4 because it's across from my right angle. So that means that I can say that either x is a or 1.4 is a. So I will use x for a and 1.4 for b. So since Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, every time I see an a, I'm going to replace it with this x right here, or I can just leave it as a. So it would be x squared plus, and then here the b value is 1.4, so I get 1.4 squared is equal to c squared right here is this 4, so I'm going to fill in 4 for c, and then I'm going to square it. So here, this stays x squared right here. And then I have to figure out, well, what's 1.4 squared? What do I get when I multiply 1.4 by itself? So I have two options in my calculator. I could either write 1.4 squared and get 1.96, or I could do 1.4 times 1.4. And when I do that, I get 1.96. It doesn't matter either way, we get the same answer. So here I get plus 1.96, and then I'm going to figure out what 4 squared is. And I know that 4 squared is 16. So my goal is to get this x squared alone, but there's this 1.96 on this side that I just don't want. So I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting it. So I'm going to subtract 1.96, that's going to cancel it out. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. And when I subtract 16 minus 1.96, I end up getting 14.04, and then I just bring down this x squared right here, so I get x squared equals 14.04. Now that I've gotten x squared on one side and a single number on the other side, I'm allowed to square root. So I'm going to square root on both sides, and I end up getting x equals, and we want to round this to the nearest tenth. Let's type in the square root of 1404 into the calculator and see what we get. So I end up getting this crazy decimal, 3.74699. So when I round this to the nearest tenth right here, here's my tenths place, and because there's a 4 after the tenths place, the 7 stays as is. So the ladder reaches a height of 3.7 meters. All right, in our last example, it says you go for a walk with your friend who stops walking to take a phone call, but you keep going. So you travel, so here's your friend, okay? You travel 15 meters north, and just a reminder, north, south, east, and west. So I'm actually going to move this over here a little bit because we're going to be going west. So again, we're going 15 meters north, and then we go 8 meters west, and your friend wants to take the quickest route to get to you. So your friend wants to see what's the fastest way that I can go from where the friend is to where you are. And so here we want to find the length of this hypotenuse. So here, this is our right angle. This means that this value right here is your C value, and this is what we want to find out. Then that means that the 8 could be A or the 15 could be A. It doesn't matter. Those are interchangeable. So here I can say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And every time I see a c, I can replace it with x. So I'm going to say x squared. Every time I see an A, I'm going to replace it with 8. And every time I see a B, I'm going to replace it with 15. And now I'm going to square each one of these values. So 8 squared is 64. 15 squared is 225. And I'm going to just copy down this equals x squared. Now I can put these two numbers together. So 64 plus 225 is 289. I don't want to do any square rooting until I get to this point right here, because I can only do it when I've got the x squared alone on one side and a single number on the other side, which I now have. So now I'm allowed to square root on both sides right here. And when I take the square root of x squared, they cancel each other out. And the square root of 289 is going to turn out to be a nice even number. And we end up getting 17 meters. Has to travel 17 meters to get to you. And that's it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in class. Bye.